never to leave me alone.
Welcome to Unity of Wichita. I am Patty Yoon. I'll be your platform leader today. Here on Bro is on Music. We'll have special music from Skip Swearingen later on in our service. We got a whistle. Woo! Okay. Judith Huffman will be sharing our affirmations and meditations. Jessica on video. Brian on sound. Samantha Jones will be sharing a special blessing for this morning, and our message will be shared by Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck via video. Let's give them all a hand. And I'll be closer here. Thank you. All the theatrics of our service is coming together perfectly. And so, at Unity, we celebrate one of the 12 powers that our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, identified and discerned to be within each one of us every month. This month, we celebrate the power of imagination, and that is the power to visualize, to conceptualize, and to envision. So with that power of imagination, let's say our mission statement together. Inspiring spiritual transformation as a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive community. And with that same power of imagination, let's say our statement of being together. There is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. Once again, we want to welcome everyone who has joined us today in the sanctuary, as well as at home on Facebook and on YouTube. We are honored that you have joined us. If you're at home, we hope we get to meet you in person soon. Unity is a worldwide ministry dedicated to the ongoing awareness of the Spirit within all. Wherever you may be on your spiritual journey, keep what works for you and gently release the rest. We will now bless everyone who is connected here today. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ as you, just as you are. Amen.
Hear Spirit speak to us. I'm not sure what that is. It's always an adventure. This morning, as many of you may know, is not only Father's Day, but it's also the observation of the newly official federal holiday, Juneteenth. Yay. While I was at the Unity Conference this past week, I talked to some friends who have been powerful movement. I'm going to switch to white for some reason. All right. So I talked to some friends in the Unity movement who were very active in supporting equality and healing the racial experiences in the United States. And I said, can you tell me, from your perspective, what is Juneteenth to you? And it was the first time that someone said to me, it's not about all this commercialism that's been created. It's about the cultural understanding that African Americans and Black Americans feel when they realize and hear the stories from their families and now their schools and TV, that there was 2 whole years following the Emancipation Proclamation where individuals were still in slavery after they had been freed. And so the question is, did the people enslaving them know? We'll never know that. We can only speculate. But as we observe this cultural event, and we honor the experience of all peoples in that time, those who we are forgiving, those who we are celebrating, for both are worthy. And today, we lift up and we hold in consciousness the freedoms that this country is allowed for us, all of us in these United States. And we affirm the truth that they will always be upheld while we, as a humanity, as people, affirm the truth of our oneness, our wholeness, and our belonging. So I invite you to join me in holding a prayer and a blessing for all of those affected by this experience all those years ago, and affirm the truth that it will never return, here or anywhere else. We affirm that it ends forever. And as we move into this time of prayer, as we hold this vision of healing, of honoring, and celebrating freedom, we hold a prayer for all of those intentions on our hearts and on our minds. We lift up the truth of wholeness, health, life, and vitality. We are so very grateful for all that we have and all that we are, and our expression of the divine as mothers, fathers, friends. We lift up. We dance in the face of time, for we know that the time is now. And in the name and the nature of the Christ in us all, we say together, and so it is. Amen.
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us through every evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever.
Good morning. My name is Judith Huffman, and I will lead us in our affirmations and meditation. So affirm with me together. Relationships are amazing. I choose to see the good in each one. I choose to create loving relationships. So let's begin this time of meditation. Allow yourself to relax comfortably into your chair. Take a few deep breaths, allowing yourself to settle more deeply. And gently close your eyes or soften your gaze as we prepare for a time of going within. Relationships. How are those relationships in your life? Especially those relationships you may have had with your father or other male figures who represented a father in your life. They may be living today or they may not be. But today is a day that we celebrate Father's Day. That relationship with the father during childhood may have been good, supportive, loving, or it may have been less than desirable. But what came to me yesterday as I was meditating were these words: see it right makes all the difference. Seeing it right makes all the difference. So how we see that relationship often affects our lives. How do we see it right? Do we realize that all the struggles, all the challenges that our fathers may have faced in their lives shaped who they were and determined how they related to other people and how they regretted things from their past, and how even they may have regretted how they treated you when you were young? Relationships are complicated. Life experiences are complicated. Maybe our fathers wanted us to be better than they were, or stronger, or braver. But they didn't know how to inspire us to be the best that we could be. Instead, maybe it triggered some negativity or anger or frustration on their part, rather than their ability to encourage us and to motivate us to be the best that we could be. Or maybe it was fear for what might have happened or could happen. We all have triggers, don't we? Brought about by our own past. And as we can realize that triggers can actually be a signal to remind us to make a different choice. That suggestion was made by Reverend Bowen in his book, To You, Love God. He said, turn things around. Instead of calling them triggers, call them signals, like a wake-up call to remind ourselves that we can make a different choice. We can choose to see our fathers differently, or we can also choose to be different in our relationships with others. That signal can show us the way if we stop, pause, and take a moment to take a deep breath and realize that what we want to express is the highest and best, to express love and acceptance, understanding. Seeing it right makes all the difference. How do you want to see it? So let's do that with our relationships with other people, but especially with our fathers today. And rather than looking at all those perceived wrongs, let's see these as his not knowing how to come from love and acceptance and understanding. Let us remember the good times more than the wrongs. Let us focus on the good times, releasing and forgiving and letting go of all other times, and thus allowing ourselves to begin the healing process of seeing him, seeing our father and father figure as a being of love, acceptance, and understanding. And remember, if that's hard for you, that you have a loving Father who accepts you just as you are, who makes no judgments of what you do, who loves you just as you are. Jesus called him Father, and he is also your Father. He is always present when we remember to turn within to that secret place where we experience the silence and we let him speak to us as he did to me yesterday in meditation. Seeing it right makes all the difference. God and I are one. He is my Father, my spiritual eternal Father, and he guides me He shows me the way. He helps me to forgive and to release and let go, and to accept the beauty of the gifts that my Father bestowed on me. For there were many, even though sometimes I forget. But I forget and I forgive and I let go. And I accept our oneness in God, as we are all His children. For just a moment, allow yourself to look within and see where you are on this journey with your earthly father, and what steps it's now to take, and what signals you need to change to affect your relationship. So in the silence for just a moment, find the stillness, the love and the peace and the acceptance, the forgiveness. And so it is, Father. We ask for your guidance, your direction, your blessing us on this journey in our relationships with one another, or our earthly parents, with our siblings, with all of those around us. May we create joyous, happy, amazing relationships that bless all. And so it is. Amen.
It's not easy sitting here watching you making ready to leave. 'Cause you've been under our wing from the beginning. Now you're taken to the wind. So what you gonna do when the rain starts to fall in? What you gonna do when thunder rolls in? Where you gonna turn to when the water starts to rise in? And it's suddenly over your head. And you said, Dad, don't worry so much. I'll find a boat and I'll ride the storm out. I learned to walk, then I learned how to run. Help me on my way now, don't worry so much. I helped you carry your bags to the doorway. I watched you turn and take one last look. And then I remembered myself when I was 18 and all the courage it took. I was going off to school in California. I couldn't get any further away. I still remember my folks by the curbside and all the tears in our eyes. And I thought, Dad, don't worry so much. I'll find a boat and I'll ride the storm out. I learned to walk, then I learned how to run. Help me on my way now, don't worry so much. we said our goodbyes from the steps on the front porch. We both stood teary-eyed as you turned away. Then I sat and I watched you all the way down to the corner where you turned with a smile that seemed to say, Dad, don't worry so much. I'll find a boat and I'll ride the storm out. I learned to walk, then I learned how to run. Help me on my way down. Help me on my way now. Don't worry so much. Don't worry so much. 'Cause Dad, I'll be alright. Yes, I'm gonna be alright. Yes, I'm gonna be alright.
If you didn't know, Skip Swearingen is the Unity of Wichita accountant. Thank you, Skip. And there are some folks here that are here for the first time. Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck is the Minister of Record here at Unity of Wichita, and he is from Kansas City. Normally he comes down, but today are certain circumstances. So he is here remotely. Please enjoy.
Greetings. I'm Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck, and it's my honor and pleasure to be Unity of Wichita's Minister of Record. And as I get started, let me share something with you. I was supposed to be live today in Wichita. However, on Friday, I got a notification that I had been with somebody who tested positive for COVID. And so it's under an abundance of caution that I stayed home and that you're getting this lesson recorded. And as I get started, I'm doing just fine. I've tested negative as of this morning, and I should be clear by Monday. Also, this is a kind of a special day because we have a trifecta of celebrations. We are celebrating and recognizing Juneteenth, this being the first anniversary of Juneteenth being recognized as a federal holiday, and this also being Father's Day. And of course, we want to celebrate all fathers. And there's a third surprise at the end of the service, so stick around. As I begin to share with you my reflections on Father's Day, I first want to recognize that some people didn't have a great father. Some people had an abusive father. Some people had a father that was absentee. And it's my deepest hope that if that's you and that was your case, there was someone or some ones in your life that served as good father figures for you. So this first thing I want to share with you occurred when I was visiting my family in Cincinnati, Ohio, my hometown. At the time, I was living in Puerto Rico, and I was by myself on the riverfront, on a part of the riverfront called the Serpentine Wall. It's a wall that was built for flood control, and it's also beautiful. And just as the name says, it's serpentine. It undulates across the riverfront, and it has steps where you can sit and steps where you can walk from the very river up maybe a story or two to the top. And on this day, I was walking on the top. I was in kind of a reflective contemplative mood. And as I walked along, I came upon this stuff that was impressed on the top in the concrete. And since I have a biology degree, it wasn't long for me to realize what was impressed in the concrete was the history of life on Earth. And as I walked, I first came across where the first bacteria showed up. That was 3.5 billion years ago. And then the first algae. And then a billion years ago, the first multicellular animals. And then 5 million years ago, land plants. 300 million years ago, cockroaches. And then there was the period of time that began 252 years ago, 252 million years ago, and lasted for 165 million. That was a time period of the dinosaurs. Primates didn't show up until 60 million years ago, and our human ancestors 6 million years ago, and Homo sapien 200 to 300,000 years ago. And each of these were impressed in this concrete proportionally to the amount of time they were on the planet. And when I got to human beings, it was really, really small. And I thought about that the impact we've had in such a short period of time, both good and bad. And then I turned around, and now I was looking at the span of life from me all the way back to that first bacteria. And I started to cry. For the first time, I realized that in order for me to have the privilege to be standing there, some organism had to faithfully reproduce itself in order for me to be standing where I am. In fact, there were a chain of organisms that faithfully reproduced themselves all the way up to my grandparents, my parents, in order for me to have the privilege to be standing there. So think about that for a moment as you're sitting there. Think about that. In order for you to be here, there's an uninterrupted chain of organisms faithfully reproducing themselves all the way back to the first bacteria. Now, the reason why this impacted me so hard is because I was not a father and knew I was not going to be a father. And I realized this uninterrupted chain was ending with me. And I felt sadness, and I felt like I had betrayed all of those organisms. You see, everything that's living on Earth, we could say, has two co-equal prime directives. One is to reproduce yourself, and the second is to survive. Well, that's obvious, isn't it? If you don't survive, you can't reproduce yourself. And the reason why I knew I wasn't going to reproduce myself is because I already knew I had infected myself with HIV. And so there was no way I was going to reproduce myself, as every organism before me had. So think about that, and think about the privilege you have in being here where you are today. And so I want to introduce you a little bit to my father. My father was a city firefighter for the city of Cincinnati. And he was kind of a guy's guy, and his language could be a little salty. And what he taught me, if there was one thing he taught me, there was many, it was about fairness. And I have this thing even to today about fairness, being treated fairly and treating others fairly. But there is one place where that went awry. My dad had told me that if I ever got into a fight, I should fight fair. Well, that day did come. And as I started fighting with this other boy, fighting fair, I quickly discovered that he wasn't. And so I had to drop that idea of fighting fair. And so I already told you my dad had a little bit of a salty language. And one of the things that came out of his mouth on a fairly regular basis were homophobic slurs. And of course, I had to listen to it. I had to hear it. And when I realized as a teenager that I was going to be a gay man, I was already a gay teenager, but not out at all. I just knew what I liked. And in that moment, and from that moment on, I had to do everything I could to fit in. You see, there's fitting in and there's belonging. Fitting in is when you have to do whatever it is you think you have to do so you can fit in with the others in the group. In this case, the group was my family. And I bet most of you have experienced that when you were in school. There were cliques, there were in groups, and many of us did what we thought we had to do to fit in. But when we fit in, we're not being our authentic selves, and so we're not being accepted for our authentic identity. Whereas belonging occurs when you're with other people that accept you just as you are. And so there I was in a family where I was definitely in the closet. And so I could never be authentic me completely. And so the thing is that eventually there came a time when I did have to share with my parents that I was gay and that I was HIV positive. And you know, I have to share with you, if I was never infected with the HIV, I maybe have never have told them that I was gay. However, since the HIV diagnosis was terminal at the time, I felt like I needed to tell them before I was sick. And as I reflected on this, I was like any other gay person. I wanted to be accepted exactly for who I am. And I was afraid, I was really afraid that my parents wouldn't accept me. And like many others, I would have been thrown out of the house. Sure, I would have been an adult, and sure, I continued taking care of myself, but I was scared. And then as I reflected on this, I realized that I wanted them to accept me as I am, but I was wanting them to accept me when maybe it wasn't in their structure of knowing to do so. So I worked on myself until I was pretty clear that I could be with my parents, share with them, and whatever response they had, I would accept them as they were at that time, just as I was wanting them to accept me. So I sat them down and I told them I needed to tell them a couple things. And many of you might already know I have a little bit of a warped sense of humor. This is what I said. Mom and Dad, I have something to share with you. There's good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? And they said, well, let's start with the good news. I said, well, the good news is I am gay. And they looked shocked. And they said, if that's the good news, what's the bad news? And I said, well, I'm sad to tell you that I slipped with an instrument in my dental practice and I infected myself with HIV. and I could see they were devastated. They both started to cry, and they didn't know what to say. So I simply sat there for a few minutes, accepting them and their position, and I went to bed. And the next morning, I got up, and my worst fears were realized in a way. I didn't run into my mother. I ran into my father, and I said, "Good morning. How are you doing this morning?" And he turned around and he looked at me, and he paused, and he said, "I want to know one thing. Are you happy?" And I said, "Yes, Dad, I'm very happy." And he said, "I love you. You're my son, and I only want for you to be happy." And we both cried. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged with them because I was not hiding myself. Shortly after, my mother came in, and pretty much the same conversation occurred. She said, "I don't understand, and I just want to know if you're happy." And I said, "Yes, Mother, I'm very happy. I like who I am." And so, to a degree, my desire to accept them with any response they had helped me to be present with them, and not an anxious present, wanting them maybe to change themselves to accept me. And so, you see, there is this thing about fitting in. And there is this thing about this acceptance and belonging. And it's all very, very important that we get to a point where we feel like we belong so we can be ourselves. I have one more thing to share with you. It's kind of funny. So every year, when I came home, my dad would have these projects that he would want me to help him with. And they were projects he could have done by himself. And for several years, I shared with my friends this, and I'm ashamed to say, I called them his stupid little projects. And then one day, I was at an attitudinal healing retreat, and I started reflecting on this. And it dawned on me that, yes, my dad didn't need me to help him with those silly little projects. He saved them so he could have some quality time with me. As soon as I realized that, those silly and stupid little projects became very, very important. And they provided precious opportunities so I could be with him with this quality time. And while we did the projects, we would talk. And I treasure those moments I had with him, because eventually my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And for many years, my dad wasn't there anymore. And all I could do is love him and support him, which I did gladly by coming home once a month to support my mother. And so those are some of the stories I have and my reflections on Father's Day that are very personal to me. And so now I invite you to take a deep breath and welcome Samantha to the platform as she leads this ceremony.
Thank you, Paul Hasselbeck. That story always brings tears to my eyes. Always. And so part of the reason why Paul and I decided to do this ceremony today is because for Mother's Day, we had this beautiful procession of calling out the names of our mothers and our chosen mothers. And because so often the men in our lives, the fathers especially, have that quiet confidence. And so today, I invite you to come forward and choose a stone. There's many sizes, many shapes. This one has room for my father's name, Roland. My father-in-law, Kip, and probably a good number of 4 or 5 chosen fathers throughout my life. So I invite you to stand up and come forward, choosing a stone and using a marker here to write your father's name. And when we've finished, we'll go into just a moment of meditation and attunement with what that means in this experience of fatherhood and being the child of a beloved father.
Must have been cold there in my shadow. To never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine. That's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory. Or you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. Beautiful smile to hide the pain. Oh, did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I desire to be. I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all right here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know it. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? Everything I would like to be. fly higher than an eagle. Yes, I can. 'Cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything, everything I wish I could be. I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. Fly, fly, so high against the sky, so high I almost touch the sky. Thank you, thank you, thank God for you, the wind beneath my wings.
Thank you, thank you. So as we hold these stones, they feel a little rough. They're not polished. They don't shine, but they're substantial, aren't they? We feel them, the weight. And I invite you, as you hold that stone in your hand, to just close your eyes and imagine the image of your father, your chosen father, those men who breathed life into you, who supported you and created opportunities of growth, strength, and awakening to your divine power, even when you doubted it. Feel the weight that carries for your life, what you learned to send forward into your family. Your experience as only your father could, as only your father figure could. And I invite you to grasp that stone and squeeze it. Squeeze it with all the might that you have. Notice that it doesn't budge. It doesn't move, doesn't crumble under your grasp. It is firm and strong. And we, in this moment, take a deep breath and offer our love and gratitude for the strength, the support, and the wonder that is Dad. And so it is. Thank you. Wayne Donner is coming up. I forgot, thank you. You'll laugh when you find out why it's funny I forgot. Is red on? It is now.
Shows green? Okay. Folks can hear me anyway. too many directions here. This announcement is actually made in my role as the president of the Board of Trustees. We wanted to let everyone know this morning that the board has approved Samantha Jones becoming the full-time spiritual leader at Unity of Wichita. We've had some, yes, if you would like to applaud, that would be fine. Obviously, we've had some changes in alignment the last few weeks, so we wanted to get this information to you as quickly as possible. And as many of you know, Sam is on the path to becoming an ordained Unity minister. Lest you think that that is a walk in the park, I wanted to share with you a few things that Sam has been doing since she began the process in the winter of 2017. By my calculation, that would be, in fact, 5 years ago. She started with SEE classes with Reverend Toms, then began a more focused online approach through Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute and Unity Urban Ministry School, which, if you don't know what Unity Urban Ministry School is, that is another Unity ordination path that's located in Detroit. She's completed all the, you have to take 18 prerequisite courses before you can apply for ordination. Sam's taken the 18 required courses and 2 additional courses. And I might add, every time Sam takes one of those courses, we all benefit in this community as Sam continues to grow as a spiritual leader. But you don't just take the 18 or 20 courses and then send in your application. You also have to, as part of the application process, get 7 letters of recommendation, a spousal letter of support. Good job, Brian. 41 multi-part essay questions need to be filled out, and you need to provide a skills demonstration, all to submit to Unity Worldwide in the hopes that you'll get invited to interview to be accepted in the program. Sam has submitted all of that material, and I think it was last week, possibly the week before, she did receive a response from Unity Worldwide that she has been requested to interview to become more active on the ordination path. Now, again, just because she's been asked to interview, there are still a few more things that need to be done. She has to take a written exam. She has to go through a full psychological evaluation. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not a fly on the wall for that. And completion of several application forms required to be present in the interview. We expect that the interview, based on what we can tell, will be sometime during the month of August. So I just wanted you to know the movement that the board has taken as far as our spiritual leadership is concerned, and also give you an opportunity to wish Sam well on her continued journey.
Now you know why it's funny that I forgot. Yeah. Anyway, with that, I invite Patty Yoon.
By the music, the message, the meditation, and by love. We invite you to consider giving us a tithe or an offering this morning. With the ushers, please come forward in the sanctuary. If you're at home on Facebook or on YouTube, please go now to your chat box. There's a donations page, a PayPal account, a link, and our physical address, or you can bring it by the church during regular business hours through Thursday, 9:30 a.m. to 3:30. Whatever amount you're guided to give, just visualize your electronic tithe or hold your offering over your heart, and let's say our offering blessing together. Divine love flowing from me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I receive, and I am grateful. Amen.
As we come together as a community, Unity of Wichita, I invite us to open our hands, realizing that in this moment, we are open to receive and open to give. The circulation of resource, energy, love, and intention goes forward to support Unity of Wichita, its mission, and those to whom we tithe monthly. We bless these offerings and these gifts as we envision the good, the power, and the joy that they express in their service. And we are so very grateful. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. And we get the joy of Mr. Donner once more.
I know most people are saying once is more than enough. There are sign-up sheets in Fellowship Hall for volunteer opportunities, hospitality, buildings and grounds. And so if you have an urge to help us in those endeavors, please find the sign-up sheets in Fellowship Hall. The church is involved in the Pride March and Picnic on June 25th, which is this coming Saturday. And there is a sign up to volunteer and represent Unity of Wichita. The march and the picnic lasts from 9:30 to 3:30. So there are 2-hour increments that folks are asked to sign up for between 9:30 and 3:30 should you be available and desire to do that. And the next Parents' Night Out is a week from Thursday on June 30th. And if you're interested in helping with that endeavor, please see Kelly McFarland, the director of our youth organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to invite everyone to join us in our closing prayer of protection. So please stand if you are able, and if you're watching online, just envision the heart, the power that you are emanating into this space as we share this energetic space of light and love. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, peace that was meant to be, with God as our creator, loved ones all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow to take